Alright, so which one should you choose? One hand or two hand for your backhand? You want to be like Wawrinka or do you want to be like Djokovic? To tell you the truth, I have no idea. And it would be foolish of me to recommend something to you without having actually seen you play. Thanks for watching this video. Okay, I'm kidding. Anyone that tells you that one is better than the other is misleading you because at the end of the day, it's your decision. However, I think I can help you make an educated decision based on the pros and cons of each, and that's what we're going to look at in this video. Now I can tell you that I've used both of them in my career and they're both awesome in their own ways. So let's quickly go over the pros and cons of the one and the two-handed backhand, and hopefully that'll shine some light on your decision and which one you decide that you're going to use as your weapon. Let's get started. So let's take a look at the one-hander first because, I don't know, one comes before two. How's that for logical? Aside from looking extremely cool and feeling amazingly satisfying to hit, the one-hander has some pretty nice benefits to it. First and foremost, since you got one hand on the racket, it's going to be easier to develop a great slice initially because you're a little more comfortable swinging freely with one arm, and the slice just seems to come more naturally to one-handers. They just seem to have an easier time releasing and really knifing that slice. Also, if you're coming to the net a lot, again, you're used to having one hand on the racket, so that might be a little easier for you to chip and charge, serve and volley, and really get into the net. So please keep in mind that none of these are hard, fast rules. There are a lot of players with a two-handed backhand that have a sweet slice, just like there are one-handed backhand players that have the ability to create the types of shots that you usually see with two hands. So keep that in mind. Moving on, it's actually possible to take the ball earlier with a one-handed backhand because you have more reach and you're less restricted. And as you'll find out when we talk about making contact, your ideal contact point is naturally more in front of you for power and accuracy. And finally, it's just a freer shot. You're not restricted in your range of motion by a second hand on the racket. Makes sense. So those are the pros. Now here are the cons. Well, you got one hand on the racket, and that's one fewer hands steering the ship, so to speak. So it may actually be tougher to control your shots initially. Also, because your contact point is a little more in front of your body, you're actually going to have to be that much more organized with your footwork, spacing, and all of that good stuff to hit a good backhand. With a two-hander, if you absolutely had to, and I hate saying this, it's a little easier to muscle through the ball because you have two arms to help. With a one-hander, if your spacing isn't close to perfect, you get jammed, you get this elbow jab move that I see a lot of players doing, and you don't want that. You want more powerful backhands that look and feel great, right? Okay, so let's look at the two-hander. Keep in mind that this whole video is really dealing with what happens in general, and I truly believe that if you commit to practicing whatever you choose, you can become powerful, accurate, efficient, and consistent from your backhand side. But let's talk about the two-hander for a sec because my students a lot of times want to switch to or from the two-hander, and here's the thing to realize. With the two-hander, naturally you're going to have a little more control initially if for no other reason you have a second hand on the racket. It's like having two hands on the wheel. It might also help you to develop more topspin initially. Again, dealing in general here, but it might help you develop more topspin with your non-dominant hand helping you out with that brushing motion. Another thing is having two hands on the racket for some reason seems to encourage more hip rotation. Don't ask me why, but rotation is a huge source of power on both the one and two-handed backhands, and players with two tend to rotate a little more. The two-hander seems to help tremendously in the return of serve. First off, as we'll talk about in a future video, you have a fraction of a second longer to make contact, which makes a big difference when you're playing a big server. From my experience as someone that has played with both, it's also a little easier to overcome mistakes with a two-hander. If your footing's bad or if you're off balance, the ball takes a funny hop on you or your opponent crosses you up. Again, not a hard, fast rule, but that's been my experience. The cons are your range of motion is naturally limited because you got two hands on the racket. And this can be a problem if you're playing someone who constantly gets you stretched out and out of position, though that can normally be solved by understanding tactics and anticipating well, which we'll talk about in another video, so be sure to subscribe. Also, with my students who are just starting the two-hander, it can be difficult sometimes to go to the slice because they're used to that non-dominant hand going along for the ride as opposed to releasing and letting that slice really knife through the ball. So keep that in mind. And finally, if you're someone that comes to the net a lot, there may be an adjustment period going to a one-handed volley, which you should totally do, by the way. You just have more reach that way and you're more flexible at the net. And there you have it. At the end of the day, the choice is really yours. My advice is test both of them out and pick the one that makes you feel the most comfortable. The one-hander and two-hander, much like your two potential prom dates, both have something going for them. And at the end of the day, it's which one makes you feel the most warm and fuzzy. Thanks so much for watching this video. I had a great time making it for you, as I enjoy making every video for you. And I'm excited to announce that I'm releasing my new product called the Ultimate Backhand, which comes in the one-hand and the two-hand version. And it's all about creating effortlessly powerful, accurate, and consistent backhands that you can use to dictate points, control matches, and win more games. So if you're interested in that, it's not available yet, but you can click somewhere around here to take you to the early bird list, and you can get on that and you'll have first access to it before I release it to the general public. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.